okay, so before this, I start experiencing the 1111 phenomenon. So I knew nothing about this, but I started seeing 1111 everywhere in the strangest ways, not just on clocks, on receipts, on TV. And then one day I was thinking about somebody, a friend that I probably hadn't heard from in 10 years. I get a text from them at 11:11, and I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So after that, I go to this appointment with the psychic medium, and the appointment's really good. She gives me lots of information that resonates with me, but it's being recorded on my phone, and she says, okay, we're done. You can stop recording. I press stop, but I wasn't really paying attention. I go to grab it, and she grabs my phone and she holds it up and she's like, do you see this number a lot? And so it had stopped at 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. And I can send you a screenshot of this.
Got chills. That's crazy. You can't even do that if you wanted to. Hi everyone, welcome to the Phenomenon Project, where we explore consciousness, contact, and the true nature of our reality. I'm your host, Corey, and if you're enjoying this content, please be sure to like and subscribe and share it with other crazy people like me. I appreciate your love and support so much. So now it's time to take the human experience and meet it with the unknown with our next guest, who I'm really excited to introduce you to. I know I say that every time, but I'm really, really excited for this one. He is a really good friend. He is a fellow Monroe Institute Gateway Voyager and also the host of the podcast 1111 HQ on YouTube. Shayne Tyler, how are you doing, bud?
Let's go, bud. You nailed that.
Thanks. Sometimes I practice it. Gary saw it last time off air.
Right on.
So how are you doing? I'm so happy that our worlds have converged, because I remember not long ago I was on 1111 HQ and you were like, when are you going to start interviewing people, bud? And I just kind of quickly found myself here.
Crazy, right? Look at us. Look at us go.
You're very good at lighting the little spark in people and getting stuff going.
Yeah, I try to make everybody else do the stuff.
Yeah, right. It's so funny because I remember being at the Monroe Institute and you're like, I have this feeling that I should be doing something. And I just keep feeling like it's a podcast and I'm giving you all this advice. I'm like, just do it. Just go out there and do it. You got to start somewhere. And you're like, okay, so like, where's your podcast? Where's your YouTube channel? And right after the Monroe Institute, I had your voice in my head. I'm like, yeah. So actually you inspired not only this podcast segment really, but just starting my channel in general. So thank you. And for all the viewers, he's pretty much the person behind it, bullying me to do it.
No, I can't take credit, but yeah, I think it was obvious, that trajectory, that this was going to be something that you were going to do. And yeah, I like to encourage people to take the chances so I don't have to.
Right? We'll be your guinea pigs. But, I've noticed that there are a lot of people out there who are feeling this push to share. They don't even know what to begin with, right? They're like, what am I going to do? Which is what I went through, which is what I'm sure you went through. You're asking yourself, what do I want to share with people? Because I feel like I really need to get out there. People who have never even put themselves out there, who are afraid of speaking publicly, like me, like other people. Like Heather, check out the Soul Explorers on YouTube. She just started that too. And there's something in the air. There's something with the energy around us right now that is motivating normal people who are having spiritual experiences to put themselves out there and just reach out to people and try to make connections. And it's a beautiful thing.
It is. Yeah. Well said. That's a good way to put it. Something's definitely happening. Something's in the air. There's these, spiritual impulses within us that we're like trying to find a way to get out. Yeah. Right. So I guess we've chose podcasting.
I know. I believe, God is definitely tapping people on the shoulder And it's just so funny. Like, I laugh imagining God being like, you're going to start a podcast. And you're like, who was that?
Right.
Who said that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like, what
um,
else? What else to do? I don't, yeah, this whole thing to me, starting 1111 HQ, it's been a long time in the works. And you know, I don't feel like I'm that person. I hate being on camera. I said it in a bunch of my episodes. I have trouble articulating my thoughts. I'm much better behind the scenes or in role of a producer, but yeah, it's this call to action of some kind. So, I don't know that what I'm doing is of any significance, but I want it to help somebody. That's the motivation, is just do something that can hopefully help or motivate somebody else.
it will. And it's not everything makes sense at first. When you get these feelings and you get these pulls to do stuff, it's taking the leap and having that courage, putting yourself out there, even though you don't necessarily want to. That's what I think God is pushing us to do, is to get outside of our comfort zones, because that's how you grow. That's what
Yeah.
I've learned is you're never going to grow unless you experience discomfort of some kind. So
Right.
I think that
Yeah.
there's definitely a bigger picture at play, and we just are getting little bits and pieces of this overall picture as we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'd love to get more into the podcast, but why don't we start a little earlier than that? And why don't you share with us how this spiritual journey started for you? When did it start? How did it start? And, how did it bring you here today?
Yeah. This is something that I'm realizing in these most recent years, is how I had these experiences in my past that weren't necessarily on the forefront of my mind or didn't stand out necessarily as being spiritually significant. And then I'm realizing, oh my goodness, like there was really something to that. It was all these growth moments. And I know things happened when I was a child that I still cannot put my finger on. It's like more having a sense of something. I should probably do a regression to try and bring some of these memories to the forefront. I do remember I used to do this thing when I was a child. When I'd lay in bed and lay in the dark, I'd rub my eyes to get like these
Mm-hmm.
patterns
Same.
going. And then that could lead to just these really vivid dreams, a lot of flying dreams that I'm realizing were probably out of body experience, because that would come for me later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of the big things is when I was in grade 4, I had, I could say, a near death experience. It's probably not your traditional near death experience because it wasn't like an out of body thing, but I knew I was going to die. You could put it that way. So, my parents were going to go run an errand and they wanted me to go with them. And I wanted to play at the neighbor kid's house. So the way I remember it is they kind of reluctantly allowed me to stay with the neighbors and play while they went to do this thing. And we were playing hide and go seek. And I ended up cutting my arm. I don't know if you can see it,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like right
Big
across there
scar.
at the bottom where the arteries are. And so I can save the graphic details, but something had happened and I got cut by a fence very badly. It was so deep that it cut my muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I went like this and I looked at it, it was horrifying, extremely scary. And I knew that I was going to die. That's the only way I can put it. It's just this internal knowing. And then I had this profound sadness that it felt like I was going to be robbed of so many opportunities and the unfairness of that. And I had so much to do and accomplish in my life. But then the thought that came to me was my parents and the fact that they had reluctantly left me there alone, and then they come back to their child being dead. And so that's when I started praying, please don't do this to my parents. Please don't do this. I just kept saying, I don't want to die. I'm not ready. God, please don't do this. And long story short, the guy whose house I was at, the father, he was formerly in the Canadian military. He tried to tourniquet my arm, threw me in his vehicle, drove me to the hospital. But what was amazing is once I got to the hospital, and we took everything off to show the doctors or get them working on me, it wasn't bleeding.
Wow.
And so I never, this was just like an event, just something that happened to me. I moved past it. I never looked at it as some sort of miracle. I still don't know what to make of that. It wasn't until reading Chris Bledsoe's book, UFO of God, and the story of Nellie. And so if anyone is unfamiliar in that story, his dog gets a cut on its neck and he prays and takes his hand off and it's no longer bleeding. But when I read that, that's when it really hit me like, oh my goodness, did something like this happen to me? And also, what are the implications of that? So looking back, there does feel to be something spiritually significant to that moment, because when that was happening, I had complete faith in God, full trust, no questioning. And I think that really opened me up to something at that point. As a child, I was always highly aware of the bigger things in life. Just, I guess, a spiritual awareness at a young age. Yeah. So that was kind of like the first big thing that I look back on. And the next thing, because I've been writing these down, trying to remember these events. And I know I was at 12 years old. This was right before my 13th birthday. I was at school, and one of my friends who is a Christian told me that I was going to go to hell if I didn't accept Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what does that mean? We went to a Lutheran church, but it was more like we went on holidays and stuff like that. Not, hardcore religious by any means, but I was always really interested in church, interested in Jesus and God. So I had this introduction, but no sort of dogmas around that. But anyways, when I heard my friend say this, it opened up huge questions for me and created this feeling of almost existential dread. And like, is hell real? Am I going there? What does this mean? And after, I don't know if this is days of feeling this way, then I started feeling more scared, really nervous. And I ended up praying on it. And I said, basically, God, if you're real, I want to know. I need you to show me. And I need to know in a detailed way. Mm-hmm. I was really asking the universe, asking God to show me. And then it was probably a month later, on my 13th birthday, my stepfather gave me this book called the Urantia book. And that, for me, that was my answer. That was the answer to that prayer. It's become my tool for personal spiritual growth. So yeah, that would be the second big thing at a young age that happened to me. Yeah.
That's so much to deal with. And it sounds like obviously you almost died because you almost bled out, but imagine that ego death that you have when you get so close to death and you're like, it's about to happen and you have no control over it. That really affects you when you go through something like that. I mean, like, I'm not comparing my panic attacks in any way to almost bleeding out and dying, but I've had panic attacks the last year where my heart rate goes through the roof and then it drops and it goes through the roof and it drops to the point where like I feel myself like about to pass out, and then the panic sets in and then I think I'm going to die, and now I'm pleading with God like, please don't kill me. And when I go through that, I feel like I'm going through these tiny little ego deaths where I'm like, wow, like actually any day could be your last day.
Mm.
And so for you to get so close to that and be like, okay, these are like my final moments. And that's a really difficult thing to deal with, especially in those formative years of being a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can totally relate to panic attacks because that was a thing for me in high school. I still don't know what that was. It was this period. It would happen for me when I was falling asleep. So go to bed and then probably within 15 minutes wake up into full panic attack, existential dread. Man, I don't even know how to describe that, but it's horrifying.
Yeah. And I relate to that a lot too because I've had panic attacks since pretty much getting out of the military, but they manifest differently. They would manifest like hyperventilating, but I always was in control of my thought process. It just was more so like my body that I couldn't control.
Mhm.
But these panic attacks have been totally different, where I'm really not in control of my thought process. You feel that existential dread and you feel like, oh my God, something is happening, and you have no control over your mind or your body. And it happens a lot when I'm laying down. And yesterday, I mean, it's on topic. It's a little off topic, but I was standing in the kitchen yesterday and then all of a sudden I started to really not feel good. And I was just like sharpening a knife. I was getting ready to cut some chicken up, start the crock pot. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't thinking about anything. And I started to not feel so good. And then I felt this thumping in my chest and I checked my heart rate and it was like all of a sudden 170. And I had to go sit down. And so the whole rest of the day, I'm like, my nervous system is a little heightened because I'm a little afraid, like at any moment, I could have a heart attack. That's what's going on in my head. And last night when I laid down for bed, when I started to fall asleep, my body would jump out of it and I would go into panic. And I don't know what it is about laying down. If it's like your body, if your heart rate is going like decreasing, it's going down, and then your body is having an adrenaline response because it thinks that you're gonna die. It's like, it's so crazy and it's very difficult to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to make of it. I reasoned that it was some sort of physiological changes, like maybe brain chemistry of some time. I don't know, but it's
Right.
terrible to deal with.
Because it seems like, and I think that this is beneficial for somebody watching because this is more common than I think people realize. People don't like to talk about this stuff very often, but
Hmm.
you get these adrenaline surges out of nowhere sometimes, and it's just there's something with your body that, like you said, you can't quite figure out what it is. But the best thing that you can do is to tell yourself that like this is uncomfortable and even feels a little painful at times and panic inducing, but it's going to pass, and talk yourself through it. Focus on breathing and just like trust, cuz I've gone to the emergency room 3 times over it, and my husband is like 3 times is enough. You need to mentally get a hold on this and tell yourself you're not going to die.
Mm. Mm.
And also, I've noticed that the Schumann resonance spikes around the times that I have really bad panic attacks. I don't even
Oh,
pay
wow.
attention to the Schumann resonance, but when I get really bad ones, I'll look it up. And now I have a friend who he's going through this as well. So we kind of lean on each other sometimes and just check in, and he'll send me screenshots of the Schumann resonance he did 2 days ago, and he's like, how are you doing? Are you getting through this okay? And I'm like, I feel fine. And then all of a sudden that's when I started to not feel so good.
Mm,
So I think
wow.
energetically there's something going on that could be affecting people and you don't
Yeah.
even realize it.
Yeah. Well, there's so much we don't understand about ourselves, right?
Yeah, it's important now more than ever to stay grounded and
Yeah.
do things that keep you grounded into this reality so you don't lose it.
Yeah, for sure. One thing about that, when I was going through that experience, when you're in it, you're in it. It's hard to see anything outside of that. But I know once you could get through that sort of panic state, um, again, it led me to prayer.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
important to just touch base with God and be like, I'm not ready, please.
Right. Yeah. Please help
There's
me.
more things I want to do.
Yeah.
But it also, when these things happen, it puts into perspective for me of like, what was the last thing I said to my husband? Or like, was I snippy? Or, when's the last time I gave him a kiss? And, don't let yourself forget about those things and only remember it when you're going through a crisis. Like, that's what they always say is, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do when somebody annoys you or you have a bad day, you get a little snippy or just, complacent, right? Just
Yeah.
complacent. Oh, I haven't called my mom in a couple of weeks or I haven't done this or that.
Yeah.
And you should live every day like it's your last, at least when it comes to like the people that you love. Tell them you love
Yeah.
them while you still can.
Yeah,
I
for
think that's
sure.
important.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so you said you were 13 when you got the Urantia book, right?
Yep.
What about that do you remember like stood out to you a lot? Or what were your favorite parts of it when you were a kid?
Yeah. For me, so there are four parts of the book, and the advice from my stepfather was to read the last part because it's the easiest to read. It reads like a story. It's the life and teachings of Jesus. Um, so for sure, that's what it continues to be too. Not just then, but that is the heart for me of this of the message and the growth of relationship with Jesus and understanding who he was when it's not through a religious lens, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the religious dogma. I approached it baseline. Um, but that story has informed so many aspects of my life and um, when it comes to spiritual values, love, truth, beauty, goodness, the way he lived his life is just so unbelievably inspiring.
Mm-hmm. And I haven't read this. I need to get to it. It's one of those things where the universe, or not universe, God keeps pushing me toward the Urantia book. But I think just it's intimidating because it's so large. But I think Gary gave the same advice for anybody watching Gary Tong's episode. Check it out. He goes in depth about the Urantia book, but he also had that kind of recommendation of to start with the stories about Jesus. But what are some of the bullet points, or what are a couple takeaways about Jesus that maybe people wouldn't know if they either never read the Bible or whether they did, and that's the version of Jesus that they know.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of complexity there, and I think that's one of the things that the Urantia book does is it clears up a lot of misconceptions. And again, this is my opinion. I'm not by any means an authority on the Urantia book, and um, but for anyone who's familiar with the Bible, we know there's this gap of missing years. And the question is, what happened during these missing years? And I feel that the Urantia book provides this information and it provides the context, not just for that, the story of Jesus, his life and teachings, but in general, answering a lot of questions about why the world is the way it is. And for anybody who's not familiar, it's a text that claims to not have human authorship. So that's a pretty big claim, right? Mm-hmm. That this wasn't written by human beings. It claims to be written by many different celestial beings, or beings that exist outside of the range of human vision. And one of the reasons is because as humans, we have this conceptual poverty. We basically, you probably agree with this. It feels like there's no adults in the room. Yeah. Like we're just looking around going, what is going on here? And there is an explanation of why. So for me, the Urantia book does a really good job of clearing these types of questions up. And as I say that, I'm a 30-year reader of the book, but I am open to many different things. With that, I try not to be dogmatic with it. I ask the question of any book, how does it align with spiritual values, right? And does it bring us closer to God in our personal lives? And does it bring us closer to each other? That's how you can judge the value of a book, to me.
Right. And during Gary's episode, I talked about, there are people that will just refuse to even touch a topic or read a book or look into anything just because they think it's not worth their time or it's conflicting with their own beliefs. And I just think it's a good idea to expose yourself a little bit to anything. And you might be pleasantly surprised if you feel that something aligns with your heart. You're being guided in a certain direction. And like you said, if there are certain core principles there, like, does it help you get closer to God and be a quote unquote better person, kinder, more loving, which I think is like the whole point of being in this simulation, is to learn how to love. Because in the real world, on the soul side of everything, that's all it is just pure love over there, pure love in God. And we come here to this world to have human struggles, but that's our biggest challenge sometimes, is to learn how to love.
Yeah, for sure. And, we're so immature at times. And this is one of the things that is causing me to do this thing I'm doing now with this podcast. It's come out of the division I'm seeing in the world. It's so disgusting. And, why would I need you to believe what I believe? Right? Mm-hmm. There are so many different spiritual paths. The point is that we have a spiritual path and we're moving towards something, but do it on your own terms. You have free will, right?
Yeah. Just explore and be curious. And something I've been saying lately is like, you don't even have to tell anybody you're doing it. Just do it, because people feel that there are, I don't even know what, certain stigmas or something, bad things attached to being curious and exploring. And I see it a lot with the sky watching and the psi abilities. People want to knock it, they never want to try it. And everybody is a critic of something that they never want to try. So instead of being a critic, be an explorer, be an experiencer, be curious, and just look into it. Yeah. If it doesn't resonate with your heart space, that's okay. It's going to resonate with someone else, this person or that person, and just go where your heart and God guides you, and it'll bring you to the perfect spot.
Yeah, for sure. Well said.
That's just my opinion on it. But I got to get around to reading the Urantia book because I feel... For sure. I feel Jesus calling me, but not in the traditional sense. I have been reading the Bible and I haven't even gotten to the Jesus part. I'm in all of the really like hard to digest stuff in the beginning. I'm reading it thinking this is exactly why my whole life I haven't been into the Bible and organized religion, because there's just so many things to digest in the beginning, so many things that don't resonate. and that I
Right.
can understand why people have a problem with it. But there are multiple translations of the Bible, and there's like newer versions and there's older versions, and there might be something that resonates with you a little more. But I haven't even gotten to the Jesus part, and I think that's where all the good stuff is,
Yeah.
probably.
Agreed.
So we can talk a little bit about the Monroe Institute because you were one of the Monroemies, as was I, as was Edson Freeman, who I just had on the podcast recently to talk about his book Strange Light. And we went to the Monroe Institute as a like particular group of people. It was like a curated group. And these are all people who were introduced to Chris Bledsoe's story, who read the book, who believe in his message of light, love, unity, God, and the Holy Mother, which is really what it's all about. Anybody who tells you it's about anything else is misinformed or part of this government psyop that's going on. But I'll get off my soapbox on that one. But I just want to say, as a side note, I've been noticing this phenomenon going on recently. Ever since Chris Bledsoe did his interview on Jesse Michaels, this was like a week or so ago, I have been getting waves of hate on my YouTube. Waves. People are just coming in groups. And I'll notice on certain days, one day it'll be all about like the UFO critics, and then one day it'll be all the Bible thumpers. And it seems like it's so organized, and it's particularly on my video about Riverfest. And if there's anybody
Mm.
listening who believes in all of this light, love, unity crap and wants to show some support, drop some hot dog emojis on that video because
Let's
now
go.
people are coming for my hot dogs in the comments, and they're just mad that they're not on the inside joke. There you go. Hot dog gang strong. And anyway, I just think it's interesting that when light and love gets spread, like, through Jesse Michaels' podcast, I think it's American Alchemy or American Alchemist.
Yeah,
It's one of the
American
two.
Alchemy. Yeah.
Thank you. This message is getting spread, and then all of these like dark energies come in and try to diminish that light. Have you noticed that lately, especially
Yeah.
now that we're getting into 2026?
Right. Yeah, we are getting into the thick of it now. The battle is officially on. It's always been on, but yeah, the darkness is being exposed. I think that's a way to put it. And it's like going back to the Urantia book, this is one of the reasons that for me personally, this has been an interest of mine because some of these things are explained, of why it's happening this way, how it got to this point. That sort of battle between light and dark, we're seeing it playing out right now. It's unfortunate that so many people just seem to be completely asleep and unaware of what's going on.
Yeah. And not only asleep, but a part of this movement of dark energy. And like I said, there are so many people out there that want to crap on and criticize sky watching. And that's okay. Have a healthy level of skepticism. And I just think that people need to get out and try it themselves and open their hearts and minds and humble themselves, and that they might see something too, because I'm seeing more and more people come forward with their experiences, with their footage,
Yeah.
and we need to stand up to the people who are being jerks. Like,
Yeah.
I think that they're only limiting themselves. Like, let's be real.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like self-limiting beliefs, just holding people back from having spiritual
Hmm.
experiences. Reality doesn't stop because of your opinions. Um,
Yeah.
it might affect what you experience, right? But again, going back to what you were talking about being curious, we should be curious about what's going on and have a healthy skepticism. There's nothing wrong with healthy skepticism.
Hmm.
It's dogmatic hand waving cynicism and skepticism. It's, yeah, people are just holding themselves back.
Right. And holding humanity back. It's like you said that it feels like there's no adults in the room. It feels like if you look at a bunch of kids on the playground and nobody knows what they're doing, they're just running around screaming. Some people are falling and hurting themselves. Some people want to actually have fun and do stuff, play on the monkey bars or push each other on the swing, have a good time, on the seesaw, two people activities where you're helping one another. And then come in a couple of the bullies and
Yeah,
they're yelling at everybody and organizing and telling you what you can and can't do.
right.
And that's how it feels right now. And if the bullies just chilled for a few minutes, if they just
Yeah.
chillaxed and they got on the swing with us and just hung out, they might see it's more fun on the swings than it is running around and pushing kids in the dirt.
For sure. Yeah,
Uh,
it feels like there's no adults in the room. It's just in the room we occupy. We don't see the adults. They're there, but they're just outside of the range of our vision.
yeah, they're letting us figure it out ourselves, and it doesn't always go that well. But I mean, that's how it goes with kids, right? You got some kids; they just got to figure it out themselves
Yeah,
sometimes, and you
that's
can't
right.
always step in.
Yeah, truth.
But back to what I was originally going to talk about before I got on my soapbox was the Monroe Institute. So we were a specially curated group of people who were called Omies. So we're homies that ohm, and we're all Omies if you just believe in this stuff and you have an open heart and open mind. And I had the most amazing week with all of you. If I close my eyes and think about it, like I'm right there. I'm back on Robert's Mountain. I can hear the birds chirping and feel that cool mountain air, and I'm right there with you guys. And you actually introduced me to the Urantia book when we were sitting there, and I had the biggest synchronicity with you because in the past I had somebody mention Melchizedek to me, and now I'm gonna say this with caution because I am not putting myself on a pedestal in any way, shape, or form. I hardly know anything about this person, but somebody was giving me my Akashic reading, and they said this was many years ago. This was almost 10 years ago, and they said that I'm meant to be a spiritual leader of some kind, and then throughout the name Melchizedek. I really want to caution. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal here. I don't know a lot about this guy, but I've always been intrigued. And when you were sitting there with me in Robert Monroe's living room and you pulled the Urantia book off of the bookshelf and you said, "Have you ever heard of this book before?" It was written by a bunch of different celestial beings and there's just so many papers in here. There's something that everybody can relate to, and you open it up and you're like right here. This is all about Melchizedek. And I was like, "Whoa, okay." It feels like God wants me to look into this more, maybe get a better understanding about this person's role and just the significance of this person. So that was interesting. But what do you want to share about the experience? How was it for you?
Oh, yeah, I feel like we have to set this up a little bit because to say life changing is an understatement. Um, my path, it felt like so much of my life was being set up to take me to Monroe and the experiences that happened there. Um, and you're speaking about synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
Synchronicities are absolutely huge for me. Um, After these childhood events that I mentioned, oh, and the other thing, which having to do with Monroe for me, is in 2009, I started having spontaneous out of body experience. And I knew nothing about that or what it was. But for me, um, it happens when I am waking up. So I'll be coming out of sleep and then I'll realize that I'm in this vibratory state. So it feels like my whole body is vibrating. And I hear this whooshing in my ears, super loud, so loud that I can't hear anything that's happening in the room. But I am aware that I'm in my bedroom, laying in my bed. But when I have this realization of, oh my goodness, I'm having these vibrations and what is going on here, fear kicks in. And so the very first time this happened, once that fear kicked in, I had this feeling of falling back into my bed. So it felt like I fell about 3 inches and landed in the bed. And I was like, oh my God, what was that? And it was not a dream, very real, but having no framework or reference for that type of experience, I didn't know what to do with it. I just like looked at my wife. I'm like, what was that? But it kept happening. The next time probably happened the next week, happened a few times a month. And it had me questioning, like, what is going on? I thought something was medically wrong.
Just like Robert Monroe thought when he was going through that.
Right. Yeah. So this just became a thing, and it slowly seemed to go away. And it started happening again in more recent years. So I kind of forgot about it. Another thing, we'll get to Monroe for sure. But in 2018, my wife was getting a reading from a psychic medium. And she asked me if I wanted to go along. And I just happened to be busy at work and couldn't make it. So she went. This reading was recorded. And when she got home, she let me listen to it. And she said that it was good. Like a lot of stuff made sense for her, but there was some things that she didn't know what it meant. And when I listened to it, I knew exactly what it meant. It was like it was for me. One of my childhood friends who passed away came through in a very specific manner that only I would know about. So then I made the decision, okay, I got to go see this woman. Her name's Kelly. So I went to see Kelly, and she gave me a reading. And okay, so before this, the month leading up to this appointment, I start experiencing the 1111 phenomenon. So I knew nothing about this, but I started seeing 1111 everywhere in the strangest ways, not just on clocks, on receipts, on TV. And then one day I was thinking about somebody, a friend that I probably hadn't heard from in 10 years. I get a text from them at 11:11. And I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So after that, I go to this appointment with the psychic medium. And the appointment's really good. My friend comes through again. She gives me lots of information that resonates with me. But it's being recorded on my phone. And she says, okay, we're done. You can stop recording. And I have my phone sitting on her table, and I press stop, and she's looking at my phone. I press stop, but I wasn't really paying attention. I go to grab it, and she grabs my phone and she holds it up, and she's like, do you see this number a lot? And so it had stopped at 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. And I can send you a screenshot
Oh my God,
of
I
this.
just got chills. That's crazy. You can't even do that if you wanted to.
Well, if you want to know why my podcast is called 1111 HQ,
right.
This is one of the reasons why. But what was super significant about this meeting is after it was recorded, that's when she gave me all the information that was most valuable. So I don't have this recorded, but it's one of the biggest moments for me. But she essentially told me, and she had gone over some of this in the recording. She was asking me if I was a Reiki master, and talking about my spiritual purpose. And there's just some things that felt big. But she said, you should start following the synchronicities, really lean into them and pay attention, because if you do, you're going to be led down a path that will be of service. And so I took that seriously. And around that time is where I really started having my strongest premonitions. Again, this is 2018. And two of the things that came up, and I was kind of connected with some people who reinforced my internal thoughts. One was about the pandemic, which would come in 2020. So I knew about that in advance, but I didn't know it was a pandemic. It was like I could pick up on all of the fallout that would come from that, the division and this massive change worldwide. And the other one was in regards to disclosure. That disclosure was imminent. And I was super interested in extraterrestrials back in high school. The movie Fire in the Sky was a big thing for me. This was always a thing for me. But when I was having these premonitions or these internal realizations, it's hard to have the language to articulate this properly, but it's this sort of knowing. And also because of our social culture, you don't want to talk about it. So I kept this inside. But when COVID happened, I was like, I knew it. I knew, again, didn't know it was a pandemic. But I was also, that date essentially in March of 2020, when things sort of all shut down, I'm sitting at my computer. I asked my wife, can you just put the kids to bed, please? Because I was basically in a panic state I run a business. It's like, are we going to get sick? Just getting caught up in that fear narrative. And again, Lindsay's putting the kids to bed. I'm doing some research on my computer, trying to find out how to handle this, trying to get things under control. And I put on a YouTube video and a number pops up on the screen and it's 111 something. And I kind of chuckled to myself and I was like, I'm glad it wasn't 1111 because that would just be weird. It had started happening again the month leading up to this. I should add that after my psychic reading in 2018, the 1111 phenomenon kind of dropped off. It was like I got the message and then it was on to other things. But the month leading up to the shutdown of the pandemic, it started happening again.
It's like it had to shut off for a while so that when it started again, you'd be really paying attention to it.
Right. And my understanding is these things are being orchestrated for us. And it's like, these are personalities and beings and they do have things to do sometimes. It's not all about you. It's like, get the message and then move along to the next thing in your path. But anyways, so this starts happening to me around February of 2020. Again, like hyper 1111 stuff. And then so when I see this number on my computer, I'm like, oh, that would have been weird if it was 1111. But I close my eyes. And again, I'm in this panic state, not knowing what to do. And I normally am not in this place, this place that feels dark. I closed my eyes and I said a prayer and I was like, God, if I open my eyes and I see 1111 anywhere on this computer screen, I will take it as a sign. And it was because I felt like my spirituality and the information I got during that reading had slowed down. It was like I was, back to secular materialist reality. But I shit you not, I opened my eyes and the time was at 11:11.
Wow.
And that to me was one of the biggest moments, because if I had guessed, I would have said it was like 10 o'clock. My wife was in process of putting the kids to bed. But I was absolutely floored. And that moment energized me to a point where I have not slowed down. Like the advice I got to lean into that, that's when I really started doing it. I started reaching out to people in spiritual communities. So, anyways, the whole synchronicity thing and my path leading to Monroe, having out of body experience, these things were happening. The other big thing was in 2023, I listened to Audible. I don't have much time to read books anymore. I have to listen to them on Audible. And this book kept getting recommended to me, and it was UFO of God. So it's like every time I open this app, UFO of God is there. And it's like, I like UFOs. I like God. Why am I not buying this book?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I just had some preconceived notions about what it was. I just wasn't looking into it. But a couple days later, my phone beeps as if I got a message. It's laying down. I turn it over. It's already open without me putting my code in. It's open to Audible. UFO of God is there, and the time is 11:11.
No, I knew it.
Yeah,
And you're like, okay, I got the message.
right. That's exactly it. I was like, bye. So yeah, started reading it, and then, like I said before, the story about Nellie really hit me. And then something started happening. This is really hard to articulate, but because of my familiarity with the Urantia book, I knew his story was real.
Mm-hmm.
I, yeah,
I feel that too when I first read his book, and even when I watched his interviews, you can just feel it, right? Obviously, there are people who are skeptical, but if you are aligned with the spiritual path, if your heart and your mind are truly open, you're truly curious, and you have this level of discernment where you're saying, okay, I believe him. You can just tell, like, there are certain things that come to you that it's just a true knowing, right? And sometimes you're like, I don't know how this information comes to me. You just know something. And when you read Chris's book, you just know that this is the truth.
yeah. And I needed it in that moment. I didn't know it at the time, but this was the thing. I was basically asking the universe, show me my next thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, again, it's hard to, when you have something that's happening on the level of the heart and not the intellect, it's hard to describe. It's hard to put it into words. Um, but yeah, it was this beautiful thing happening within me. And then I discovered Ryan's podcast right after that. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is my thing.
Right.
Right. And then so leading to Monroe, that um, it was, a year of listening to Ryan's podcast. So Bledsoe said so for,
I was just about to
I'm
say,
sure,
so said so. Check them out.
I'm sure everyone knows. Um, but again, I started having a real heart level response to Ryan, and really wanting to reach out, but also not be that annoying person to bother somebody who doesn't want to be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt I was really being inspired, I guess you could say, and a call to service, and feeling really emotional about it. And so I had made a video to send to Ryan. Didn't know how to get it to him. And then I'm like, why am I even doing this? I basically wanted to encourage him and let him know that I feel like what he's doing is very valuable and important, and to keep it going. But then at the same time, again, not wanting to be that annoying person, also not wanting to put something on his plate to make him respond to me or spend any time he doesn't. I don't want to put anything on him. So with that realization, I'm sitting here I'm in my basement right now. And I had just listened, I don't know which episode it was, but I'm feeling really emotional and like that my heart's desires to get to know him. And I'm feeling called to some sort of path, not knowing what that is. And just so I prayed. And my prayer was to have Ryan feel like what I wanted to say to him, let him feel that, like give him spiritual energy and motivation and just send love his way. So I left it at that, didn't send the video. At the same time, I'm learning about the Monroe Institute. Finally, having out of body experiences since 2009, which I finally did learn how to go out of body fully. Um, Sidebar to this whole UFO of God, Bledsoe said so thing is I'm learning about the Monroe Institute and wanting to go there. And then a month later, Ryan puts out this thing saying he's putting a group to go to Monroe. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Which part of the application process was sending a video of yourself? So
that's
it's
right.
just so funny that you listened to that little voice in your head that was like, press pause on this for now, because you were totally picking up on it and feeling that. So it was like, no, just wait a month and you'll be able to send your video.
Right. And the amazing thing is that my heart's desire, the thing that I said in this prayer, I had no idea at that time that 6 months later, I'd be able to tell Ryan that in person at the Monroe Institute. And when we were sitting there that last day, all of us, I was really emotional because I could see the path. I could see how everything happened. It was this beautiful resolve. And I didn't even know emotionally how to deal with that. It was incredible.
It was a beautiful experience, and it's true that it opens you up emotionally so much in ways that you really weren't expecting. Because I did not feel like I went into the Gateway Voyage program with like any kind of baggage. I felt very, energetically open. I was going through a good period in my life, and man, your heart just opens up about so much. I'll never forget. I always felt embarrassed after this, but I'm like, whatever, just get over it. When we were, I don't even know if you were there. There was maybe like half of the group was sitting down at the crystal, and I don't remember how it came up in conversation, but Zeke asked me about like, I think I obviously brought up a cat. I probably was talking about the tattoo I have of the cat. It was a cat that I had many years ago, like 12 years ago, and I got a tattoo of the cat. And Zeke asked about the cat. And I just like, I remember like I couldn't even breathe. I got so choked up. And then I just started sobbing about this cat that I lost 12 years ago. And I felt so embarrassed because, I'm sure you can relate when you open yourself up emotionally like that. You can kind of get a little embarrassed and, just because you're so vulnerable and you're doing it in front of people that you don't even necessarily know very well. I don't really think anybody cared, but I'm just being critical of
No, yeah,
myself.
I
But
remember that. I was there.
yeah, and I just was so sad. In that moment I felt like my cat was there, and that this was a very special cat for me that I felt like was more than just a cat. He was like a little boy in a cat's body kind of thing. So I took it very
Right.
hard when we had to put him down. He was only 2, so it was like traumatic. And so, the Monroe Institute really cracks your heart open and in ways that you were not expecting.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, hugely. On top of all of this, I went there again, I managed my expectations. I think that's to say, I don't know if success is the right word, but by
Hmm.
Monroe standards, you kind of, these things can happen, out of body experience, premonitions, psychic things. And I went there and I thought I would experience out of body, like that would sort of be my focus. And then this whole other thing started happening. Any premonition stuff I've had from the past, it was like this was just through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
and constant and wild to the point where I got self-conscious about it like halfway through and stopped talking about most of the stuff that was going on. Um,
It was funny seeing you go through this. There were moments where I just remember like looking at your face and you just have like this look of shock of like, okay, so that just happened. And I mean, crazy stuff about like you actually seeing someone in your meditation. Like, I don't want to get too deep in the story because I would love to have Zeke on one day, but there was a meditation where Zeke was standing on top of a mountain and you wrote that you had seen Zeke on top of the mountain. I have Zeke on my left, I have you on my right, and it's just like the look on your face as you turn your book toward me and it literally says like I saw Zeke on top of the mountain and you cannot make this stuff up. It's quantum
no.
entanglement or something.
Yeah. And that's what started happening. It was like everything, well, not everything, but most of the stuff I was writing in my journal was happening within 48 hours. It,
Mhm.
and what do you do with that? Like you don't believe it yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you mentioned earlier, when things start connecting so deeply with your heart and not like, your intellect, it's like you struggle with it. There's that human part of you that we experience with the blanket statement, the phenomenon. It could be ghosts, it could be UFOs, it could be signs and synchronicities. And you talk yourself out of it and you tell yourself, this is just a coincidence. There's no way. But if I've learned anything in the last couple of years is there's no such thing as coincidences.
No, no. And yeah, for me, remote viewing the control room was that moment for me where it was like, oh my God, like, do I believe this myself? I
Mm-hmm.
know I do. I've experienced crazy things,
You want to share that story?
but I could, yeah.
Because that's a
Um,
cool one.
yeah. So we were doing Focus 15. I went back, I looked through the journal just to get the details correct, but we were doing Focus 15. And probably for 15 minutes, I was not getting anything. I'm just like enjoying a nice rest, listening to the sounds, seeing black, like not getting much of anything. And then all of a sudden, I guess I must have been in that, um, that sweet spot,
Mm-hmm.
uh, mind awake, body asleep. But I get the image of a man and a woman, and behind them is like buttons and dials, like a music studio kind of. And the man says to the woman, "Oh, I have to remember to do." It was like have to remember to do something, and then there's a pause, and I hear the word vehicle, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that was so clear." I audibly heard it, and I asked myself, or asked the universe, I'm like, "Can I hear that again?" And it replays. The man says to the woman, "Oh, I have to remember, pause, and then hear the word vehicle." So I'm like, it kind of snaps me out. Like, that's so interesting that it replayed. And I'm like, why can't I get the middle part? It keeps dropping out. So I'm like trying to get it back. And after that, I, I couldn't get it. Um, so then, kind of settle back into the meditation. The next thing that pops up is I see the image of a child's bike lying on its side in front of the entrance of the other building at the Monroe Institute where we did our group sessions, or where the meeting room is. So I put those things in my journal. At the end of the meditation, it occurs to me, I'm like, I think that was Arky and Darren, our trainers at the Monroe Institute that I had seen. So I wanted to be the first one back to the meeting room because I didn't really want to talk about it in front of everybody yet. And I wanted to confirm, I wanted to talk to Arky or Darren to see if they were in the control room together. So I go in and Arky's there. I was like, "Arky, were you and Darren in the control room?" He says, "Yeah." And I said, "Did you say to her that you have to remember to do something that involves a vehicle?" And he looks at me. He's like, yeah, but you're not supposed to know about that. He goes, you need to knock next time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's crazy. Is he putting me on? Like, did I actually see that? So Darren comes in and he goes, Darren, somebody saw us in the control room. And so she gets interested, but then everyone started coming back. So I sit down and I'm processing all of this because it was so clear. And they're talking, and he turns on the TV where we are going to learn the next lesson. And when he turns on the TV, there's a picture of a child's bike lying on its side with training wheels. And I'm like, so again, it's this thing of, I can't believe this is happening. This is crazy.
I love that story so much because the part that was left out at the end was that Ryan was joining us on that last night, and they were discussing in the control room that they needed to arrange for Ryan to get picked up at the airport by a vehicle, and he'd be staying at the lower campus on Roberts Mountain, so he'd be like away from us until this big reveal was at the end. But it's so funny, it's like God or spirit or the angels were like, we'll give him this surprise. He can't hear the whole message. It's so funny how they're in on
Right.
it, you know?
Yeah. So it implies that you're being given something somehow. It's not like you're a receiver maybe for the information. How this happens is, it's such a curiosity to me. But the fact that they didn't give away the surprise, I could not get the
Mm-hmm.
middle part where they were saying Ryan's name.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
It's remarkable. So, what was your favorite focus level? Did you have a favorite, or was there one that you tapped
Um,
into better than the others?
12 and 15 seem to be my sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Actually, yeah, because near the end of the week, where what did we do? 21.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't even doing them. But basically, I was having so much success at 12 and 15 and so much fun exploring it. Uh, when Bob Monroe in the meditation, like his voice is popping in, I was like, come on, Bob, leave me alone. I got like stuff to do here.
Right.
Um, so yeah, 12 and 15 for me, I guess, was the sweet spot.
Yeah, for me, I do like Focus 12. I feel like I tapped into that a lot better when I did the weekend retreat with Ryan, which we can
Mm.
even talk about too, because you just went through that recently, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I clicked out so much at the Monroe Institute that, especially with like 10 and 12, and then like the dolphin meditation and, a couple others. But when I went through in October of last year, I went through the weekend long retreat with Ryan Bledsoe now that he's a Monroe trainer. And I feel like I tapped into 12 a lot better. I even felt like, not that I was out of body, but I was getting somewhere. Like I felt like my consciousness was levitating slightly. Like, I don't know, I felt like my consciousness went from my full body to this concentrated area right here in my head, and then even started to kind of like
Mm.
go out a little bit. But when we were at Monroe for the Monroe Me's retreat, my favorite had to be Focus 15. And then I did enjoy Focus 21 because I feel we only went to 21 once, right? It was
Yeah, I
like
think
right
so.
toward the end.
Yeah.
And Focus 21 was a lot of fun for a couple reasons because Arky said Focus 21 is going to be, because they call it the bridge to other realities, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And he said, this is a great place where you can go to a whole other world. You can meet maybe a loved one on the other side. You can even meet someone's living soul. You can meet a light being. And when he said light being, I was like, okay, this is right up my alley. So I wanted to set the stage. And I told myself, okay, when the meditation starts, I'm going to visualize myself walking up a path and into a log cabin. And then inside the log cabin, I will meet a light being. And then from that point on, I will no longer be in control. And When I walked into the cabin, you were sitting there on the couch. And I'll never forget moving over and sitting on the couch next to you and being like, "What are you doing here?" And you looked at me and you said, "Ain't no thing but a chicken wing." And I kind of laughed and I was like, "All right, you got to get out of here." But there's a little bit of a story behind that because earlier in the week, you had heard me say something. And you said, "Corey, you said something in my meditation, and I want to see if over the next couple of days you actually say it out loud to me." So we kind of had this back and forth for a couple of days, and I'm trying to figure out what it was. So when I saw you in the cabin, I thought, okay, he's about to tell me what I said to him. Well, after Focus 21, which I'll get back to a little bit, but after Focus 21, when I said to you, was it ain't no thing but a chicken wing, you said no, but you did have a connection to that. Did that not pop in
Yeah.
your head or something during that
Yeah.
meditation?
Yeah. So let me set this up because this is amazing. Um, when I was having all this precognition stuff, as an example, right after the when I saw the control room, the very next meditation, the whole thing, I only had four words come to me, and four random words. One was poltergeist, one was Kool-Aid, but I wrote, so in my journal, I just have four words. We went to lunch right after that. I was sitting at the table with four people. Each one of them said one of those random words.
Oh my gosh.
So then you have this excitement, right? This is just wild. So then the next meditation I do, I am talking with you and we're talking about Letterkenny. And you start saying these Letterkenny lines. So yeah, I write them down. And then I'm like, I'm getting cocky now, right? I'm like, Corey's definitely gonna say this. So yeah, I told you. So I'm basically throughout the week waiting for you to say the thing that I heard very clearly in my meditation. But you heard ain't no thing but a chicken wing, which is even more amazing than if you had said the Letterkenny line, because in my meditation, and this was almost subconscious, I didn't really remember it at the time, even when you said it, but I had said that in my mind because I was thinking of someone who said that. So it kind of made me chuckle in the meditation. But it wasn't until I was walking back to do the next meditation where I was like, oh my God, Corey picked up on something that was like subconscious for me that I barely remembered. How, like the fact that you could pick up on that part of it was
It's
incredible.
wild. And it's like, maybe you hardly remember it because there was a fractal of your consciousness that had made its way into my meditation. It felt far away. It felt like, oh, this is just a thought in the back of my mind. Well, the back of your mind is wandering around in my meditation and,
Right.
and saying these things. And I thought that that was so crazy because I'm like, there's no way that this is the thing I said to him. But I mean, and it's funny because we didn't have a whole conversation. It's like I walked in, you were just blankly staring. You were sitting on the couch, and I walk over and I look at you, and I'm like, what are you doing here? I'm supposed to be meeting a light being. And you just look at me and very matter of factly said, "Ain't no thing but a chicken wing." And I was like, okay, you got to get out of here. And then you just got up and you walked out. And then, that was so crazy because the rest of the meditation was incredibly profound. And I had no idea at the time that this little tiny tidbit was this quantum entanglement between the two of us.
Yeah.
And
And
it
it's
was
showing you
crazy.
something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, um, yeah, I don't know. I still don't know exactly what to make of it, but yeah, quantum entanglement for sure.
And you and I, that wasn't the first time that even happened in that meditation because I ended up connecting with Marco, which was unreal. So I'll just share what happened in that meditation, but I saw, after you left, I saw a light being, and he was just like this glowing silhouette. He didn't have any discernible features. I couldn't even see a face, just like basically a glowing man. And he said, "You can call me Jeb." And I thought, okay. Well, I looked it up after the fact, and Jebediah literally translates to friend of God. So I always wonder now, like, I don't know if these light beings have real names, you know? I don't think our souls have names in the quote unquote real world necessarily. So maybe he chose a name that would just translate to what he was. I am a light being. I am a friend of God. So he said, "My name is Jeb, or you can call me Jeb," is what he said. And I'm sitting at the table and he's standing there, and then the little girl version of myself runs in and she jumps on my lap. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be here talking to this light being, and now I'm being interrupted again. You know, first Shayne, crashed the party, and now this little girl is here. And, I had already seen myself as a little girl in Focus 15, which was like my favorite. We did a lot of healing in Focus 15. So I have this whole back and forth with my 5-year-old self. And I said, "I'm here to talk to my friend Jeb. You need to go in your room." And she didn't want to. And I basically told her, like, you have 2 options, and it's going to end the same either way. Either you can go to your room and you can enjoy the rest of your day, or you can go to your room and then maybe not have the best day. But it's up to you. And it was interesting because it was almost like I was parenting myself in a way that I think I really would have appreciated as a kid because, I love my parents. I really do. They were very young when they had me. So there was a lot of like just either yelling or dismissing or just like, "Please, like for the love of God, just listen to me. I'm your parent." But as a kid, I really just wanted an explanation for things. I didn't know how to articulate that at the time. So it was almost like I was parenting my child self when I finally explained of like, okay, you don't have a choice, but what you do have a choice about is how you basically get there, either a good day or a bad day. Then it made sense to my 5-year-old self, and she like ran away. And then what I didn't realize at the time was that Jeb had set all of that up because he wanted to teach me a lesson. He's basically told me the importance of taking that child version of yourself with you everywhere. So like everything I do, I need to have her there with me. And by healing and nurturing the past in the present, it's going to create ripples through the future. And I'm going to be a happier, better person in the future for it. So after Jeb told me all of that, I got this very real flash. I mean, it felt like it was actually happening in the mindfold of a physical being's face. So it wasn't just a light being anymore. And it looked like the friendly version of Voldemort, like very pale, no nose. It was very flat, no ears. And it was obvious to me in that moment that Jeb was showing me his like physical form, right? Well, later on, hours later, after dinner, I think we were all sitting in Bob Monroe's living room. And Marco said to me, he's like, "Oh my gosh, Corey, I almost forgot. In Focus 21, I got this flash of a being's face that looked like Voldemort, and I heard Corey, and I knew that that being was there for you." And I had not told anybody about that at all. And you cannot make this stuff up.
No,
It
it's
was
crazy.
so profound. And like you said, you can't explain it. It's got to be quantum entanglement of some kind. But anybody out there who is a skeptic or a non-believer, just do the work. I mean, try it yourself. Just do some meditations and see what kind of crazy stuff comes up.
Yeah. Oh my, yeah. Well, we keep joking about it that going to Monroe was like going to Hogwarts, you know?
It was such a magical place, even down to like when I was using the dowsing rods, they were going crazy and responding. But now here at home, I can't get those dang things to work. It's just because there's so much magic up there and so much energy and also spirits and, I don't know, enlightened masters and angels and ETs and everything in between. And also, they even say other former students, because former students will go out of body and then just fly around the institute. So like you're really
Yeah.
surrounded by everyone.
Yeah. The energy up on that mountain is unbelievable. Yeah.
It's totally life changing. And so, how did you feel the weeks after? Because I felt like a totally different person.
Yeah. Well, the last day at Monroe was all about reintegration, right? Going back to normal life after having these insane experiences. Um, and that idea of taking time to ground, to get grounded after, that was a long time for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it was just a period of processing, very emotional, really emotional after, even still, it still is. Um, and at the same time, it hypercharged me in a lot of ways. It's one of the reasons that I'm doing whatever I'm doing with this podcast and trying to find my service and promote spirituality and the fact that these things are real and our society, generally speaking, makes people want to believe that they're not real. Like there's something so wrong about that, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, I remember feeling like a different person. I felt more patient. There has been two times in my life where I felt like I conquered patience, and then of course, naturally, I regress over time as life weasels its way back in. But the first time I felt patience on a new level that I didn't understand was after deployment. After spending 10 months on an aircraft carrier, I came home and I had a different perspective on life. And I remember being at the drive-through, picking up some fast food, and there were people in the car with me that were like so irritated. And I was like, I'm just happy that I'm in this car and I'm not on a boat. Like, when you go through
Yeah.
certain things,
Yeah.
you're like, things could be so much worse or so much more difficult, and it's all about perspective. And don't get me wrong, I get impatient in the car now. You always kind of go back a little bit. So I'm not saying that I'm certainly any better than anyone else, especially in the car. But after Monroe, I felt that level of patience. I think that when you go through something so life changing, it completely rewires your outlook on life.
Yeah. Yeah. Perspective, such a great word. That's exactly what it does. It changes your perspective. It expands your framework too, because that's a way I think of things a lot is we see the world through a framework. You can literally picture a frame and everything in that is all of the things you know and experience. And there are things outside of your framework that are real. Just because you don't experience it or know about it doesn't mean it's not
Mm-hmm.
real. And it's important that we try to push those boundaries. And that's the reason openness is so important, because you, it's not like it's just us that can have these experiences. They're available to anyone, but you have to get engaged. Like the advice I got from uh, Kelly, the psychic medium, follow the synchronicities, lean into it,
Mm-hmm.
be curious, be open.
Yeah, and it'll guide you to beautiful places like Monroe.
Like Monroe. And how about the orbs?
Oh my gosh, I almost totally forgot to talk about that. Yeah, so share your experience that night that we were skywatching in Bob Monroe's backyard, and what we saw.
Yeah. Well, if we go back a night before, we went out that night hoping to see some stuff, and we didn't. The weather was not great,
I mean, it
But it
was
was
nice, but just not great for sky watching, kind of
right.
cloudy, sometimes a little rainy, but it was beautiful on that mountain as far as
Yeah.
the weather goes. But
Yeah. And we had a lot of fun just hanging out, but we were hoping to see some orbs. Let's just be real.
hmm
Um, but that night I went to bed and I remember feeling like the next day was going to be important. And my feeling was that we didn't set it up properly in the sense of setting the intention, opening our hearts. So the next night, that was something that I really wanted to focus on is like, let's lock in, right?
And you're not the
And
only one either, because there were a few of us that were like, all right, we need to really set the vibes and intention here. You wanted to, Erica had a beautiful idea to get everybody together in a circle and just align our hearts. And, I said, this is the perfect time to welcome them in, which I don't think that any of us actually took the time to do, to say, we welcome you here, we invite you here, which is important. And just all of us felt so inspired to be like, let's lock in, like you said.
yeah, yeah. Well, that first night just didn't feel right. And I was
hmm
secretly hoping that at 11:11 it would start popping off. And then it didn't happen. But again, went to bed and I was like, okay, tomorrow I think we need to set the intention, make the vibes right. But I was like, how amazing would it be if stuff started happening at 11:11? Just because that's my thing, right?
hmm
Um, so yeah, Erica said a prayer. We got in a prayer circle, which was, I don't know, I'm guessing around 8:30, 9 o'clock, maybe.
Yeah, I would say so.
Um, so it felt like we were out there for a long time, seeing nothing. But I just, I just knew it. I knew we were going to see something, and then yeah, it was like, I don't know if it was 11:11 exactly, but or right before. Some people had started going to bed. Some people were going to go to bed, and I was like, just wait till 11:11. And sure enough, it just started popping off.
Yeah, I kept hearing in my head, especially as we approached 11 p.m., I just kept hearing in my head to hang on a little longer, just wait a few more minutes. There was something in me that also was just like, just be patient and something is going to happen, because I've seen them at all times of night. I've seen them at 3 in the morning, I've seen them at 8 p.m., in the middle of the night. So, I mean, it really can happen at any point, but I have noticed that it tends to happen later on at night, which I think is helpful because, from a skeptic's perspective, the later the night, the less likely you are to even see satellites. At a certain point, you just stop seeing them and then you see them again before dawn. So,
Well,
right
these were
around,
definitely not
no,
satellites.
no. Especially the swirly boy, as we
Oh
call
my
him.
goodness. Yes.
I would love for you to share. So, Edson and I talked about the swirly boy on his episode that we did. And I did share a clip then, and I'll share it again here. But I would love to hear your perspective about what you saw when, because we're watching orbs in the distance, and then something appeared that was like, it was much closer. That wasn't far away. That wasn't in the cosmos or in the sky anywhere. That was on the grounds with us.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And something like that catches you off guard. You just can't be prepared for it. I think we were all in shock, just like, oh my God, what is that and what is happening? And I know people were seeing different colors. I saw it as mostly white with blue. And um, yeah, there was such excitement in the air after that happened. And okay, so skeptics would say something like that is a firefly, right? 'Twas no firefly.
You can tell in the video how big it is, because I've filmed so many fireflies over the summer when I'm sky watching, and they don't behave exactly like that. They behave differently. They look differently. And also, my camera is only at like 24 frames per second, and it was blinking so fast that even the camera couldn't pick up on all of the blinks. It was just like rapid fire, blink, 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 blink. It was
Well,
crazy.
I have a validation because this is going back months after we were at the Monroe Institute. We were on a call, like one of the Wednesday night calls, I think, in the Discord, and we were talking about Swirly Boy. So it was on my mind. I went out in my backyard and I'm basically, I don't do a lot of sky watches. I like doing it in groups, but I usually don't go out on my own or expect to see something. But I got into a prayerful state, opening my heart. Swirly Boy was on my mind, and I asked, can I see that again? And in the tree, there's a little blink. And I'm just like, again, having this disbelief, like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
It happens again. And it was a validation to me. And we've lived here for more than 10 years. I've never seen a firefly.
Yeah, you know when is the time of year to see them. And the first few days of May when it's still cold and wet, especially up on the mountain, that's just not the time that you normally even see them, which is when we saw that at the Monroe Institute.
Right.
And I think that all of us have experience with fireflies anyway. I'm telling you how big it was. To me, it seemed like it was maybe 50 to 75 yards away. It was not that far. I mean, really, it was right around where the pool was, or a little further back, because it comes out from behind a tree and then comes closer and disappears around another tree that was near us. And to be able to make something that big and bright, it was the size of like a basketball, but that distance away, to me at
Right.
least.
Yeah. Well, I ended up getting this thing on camera because I didn't have my camera at the time. This was just a personal validation.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I basically asked, can I film you? And it blinked. So then I got my phone out. I can send it to you.
Mm-hmm. I'd love
Comes
to see
in.
that.
Yeah, it was, but anyways, it was incredible.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was your typical orb. I know that Darren Winchester talked a lot about how there was fairy-like energy up on the mountain, and maybe it was a fairy, maybe it was, who knows? That's the whole point of this, is that we don't have all the answers, but
Hmm.
we know we're experiencing something spiritual and anomalous, and nothing bad has happened to me personally since experiencing this phenomenon other than criticism and hate from people. And think
Right.
about Chris Bledsoe's story. Nothing bad happened to him. There were some moments that were a little scary, just like in my own experience. I've seen things up close. I've had moments that were scary because it was just something I had never experienced before, but just because you see something for the first time and it's a little
Mm.
jarring, and it's like, your world is kind of breaking open there for a moment. It doesn't mean that it's something that's bad. When you think about the Bible and people seeing angels, the angels are so scary looking. They say, fear not,
Yeah.
because
Have no fear.
it's
Yeah.
scary. And when you think about these stories that people have, honest to God, the worst part, if not one of the worst parts, is the criticism and the hate and the divisiveness that it causes with other people. And so just want to say that it's a beautiful thing we're experiencing if you go into it with an open heart and you're not going in with a negative attitude and expectations, and just see what happens for you and stop dogging on people so much. Stop being so hateful. We
Right.
don't need any more of that in the world. We just need acceptance and love, and you don't have to believe someone's story. Just stop being such an a-hole about it when you hear it.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like some people just have to, it's like this self-protectionism thing
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to go to that place. They're unwilling. And I think ultimately it comes down to unconscious fears.
Yeah. absolutely. And fear of the unknown, but I think a lot of it is fear of exactly what they're doing to people, ridiculing.
Mhm.
And they think that just because they show a little bit of curiosity that it's a weakness or something. I'm telling you, it's what it comes down to, because these people that spread this hate, I don't think they're very secure. I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think they're very secure. I don't think they're
Mhm.
secure in their belief systems. I don't think they're secure in their spirituality. And that's okay, because there were times in my life where I wasn't, and I was an atheist, and I didn't believe a lot of people either. So
Right.
there's
Well,
always time
can
to turn around.
yeah, being rude to people, like what you're experiencing, and then having to find out you were wrong about what you believe and that you were shitty to people
Hmm.
because of your incorrect opinions. Um, yeah, most people aren't really willing to face that and do that inner work.
Yeah, the inner work is big. So, for anybody listening, if you watch, especially small channels like mine, like yours, like other people that we know, support them. Shine some light and love onto them. I know that the comments and everything, they don't technically matter in this grand scheme of things, but there are little ways that you can help kind of fight off that dark energy. And that's just by spreading light and spreading kindness and saying nice things and dropping hot dog emojis or
Yeah.
doing whatever. And
Yeah.
it's free and it takes a couple seconds, but also I think it's welcoming to people who are in your shoes, because there you might go to a video and then really connect with it, but then if you read the comments and they're all negative, you're like, whoa, okay, maybe I'm the odd man out here. But you're not. It's just that more people need to speak up, in my opinion, and let's stick together through this.
Yeah, for sure. And again, going back to healthy skepticism,
Mm-hmm.
if it's hard for you, somebody who's listening to this or watches your YouTube channel and sees these videos and it's like, this is outside of my framework, I don't know what to think about it. um, that's fine, you know but try to be open-minded and mostly come at it from the perspective of alignment with spiritual values. Is it loving? Is it positive, good,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful? um, you know yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, all good advice. And I have hope. I have hope for all of us, but it just comes down to we got to fight a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm a natural fighter. I'll fight for it. I'll put in that
Hey,
dirty work.
we are absolutely in a spiritual battle on this planet,
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are physical battles, there's social battles, there's spiritual battles going on. And I think that, like, we just need to put our weapons down, look at our fellow man, and give each other a little hug.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
sending a spiritual hug to all of you listening right now. Group hug. Okay, so how about you let people know where they can find you? Let people know about your podcast, and how about you give us some final words on this?
Yeah, 1111 HQ on YouTube. Got a Instagram channel, Shayne Tyler 1111 HQ, I think.
Hmm.
um, yeah, find me there. Closing words. Actually, you know what? There was something we were talking about the Urantia book, and there was something I want to share because I specifically think I'm trying to find it on my phone here, and you can cut this part if you don't want it on. But I think this will be really interesting to you and to people like us who are fans of Chris Bledsoe and Bledsoe Said So. And this was a huge thing for me. So again, going to this 1111 thing, which has been a huge part of my life, um, I've been a 30-year reader of the Urantia book. And again, I basically don't talk about it with people. It's just a tool, again, for my personal spiritual growth. I'm happy to talk about it with people who are interested, but I'm definitely not pushing some book on somebody. But anyways, the one day I'm reading a section of the book, and it mentions this type of being who is on this planet and exists outside of the range of mortal vision, is what it says. And it says specifically that there are 1,111 of them. They're called loyal secondary midwayers, which they exist kind of in between angelic and human order. It says that they are invisible to human sight, but they can manipulate things which we call material things, especially electrical energies. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. I think this is one of the mechanisms of how some of this stuff happens. And then the second thing, because this is also related, when I was a young reader, it talks about, there's a part of the book where it talks about something called the Planetary Reserve Corps. And just see if this resonates with you in relation to the Chris Bledsoe story. So it says, the Planetary Reserve Corps of Destiny is a small, carefully selected group of human beings on each inhabited world who are unconsciously prepared to serve during times of planetary crisis or major transition. They are aligned with the planetary administration. It also goes on to say that about 90% of these people are unconscious of this, whatever's going on, but 10% of these people are aware of it. And so when I was young, I was like, I want to know who these people are. Like, I want to know someone in my lifetime who's a reservist.
And these angels are laughing at you, and they're like, one day he's going to look in the mirror and be like,
no,
oh,
it's not,
snap.
definitely not me. Definitely not me. But when I read the Chris Bledsoe story, I was like, it's my personal opinion that he is one of these people who's on the Planetary Reserve Corps and working with angelic orders to try and elevate spiritual consciousness on this planet.
Absolutely. That is so cool. And now it's getting me revved up to actually get around to reading the Urantia book. I got to do it. And I think also at the top of this interview, we talked a lot about how more people we know are awakening, so to speak. They're waking up to something that's going on, and they're like, I don't even know exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing, but I got to do something. And, I think God's just recruiting amazing people to spread light and love. Like, there's nothing culty or weird about this. There's no weird chanting or rituals or like anything weird going on. It's just cool people getting together and exploring spirituality. If that scares you, I'm sorry. And I think that you should open your heart a little more and ask yourself why that's scary. That people become free thinkers and connect with God.
Yeah.
So take that to the bank.
Preach.
All right, Shayne. Well, I've had so much fun, and we could talk all day, but I guess we'll cut it short for the viewers here. So they don't have to hear me go on and on, but I love you, brother, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Love you. Thanks for having me, bud.
I'll see you later, bud, and I will see all of you buds in the next one. Oh, God.